All right, good evening. I'm going to call to order the regular Board of Education meeting of September 25th, 2024. I have 7 p.m. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Mr. Secretary, could you call roll, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Moses.
Here.
Mr. Drew. Ms. Burkmeyer.
Here.
Mr. Vinatieri.
Here.
Mr. Richards is here. Ms. Knox
Here.
and Mr. Green.
Here. We have a quorum. Moving down the agenda, item C is the approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion at this time to approve the agenda as it has been presented to you.
I'll support.
Finish the sentence.
I will make the motion. He will support it.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Moses. Any comments or concerns? If not, sir, if you call a roll call vote for that.
Motion by Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Mr. Drew,
Yes.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes. Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. Item D, superintendent's update. Superintendent Jankowski, if you would.
Yep, Tim, if you can pull up my presentation. As usual, we'll begin with the bond update. We're in a bit of a lull for the bond because we've just opened, obviously, the first phase at the high school. We are kind of now we're working on the other phases. Phase 3 will kick off here shortly with the athletic wing, what was the counseling office, now that counselors are moved out, and then a few other offices, the engineering office. Just to give you an idea of what the timeline's going to be, kind of moving forward, just wanted to give an update because that's the next thing is we're going to start with. Here's the overall timeline. I know it's very small to see, but if you can look, we're still on, there's 12 years of this bond. The red line there is fall of 2024. So this will go through well into the 2030s. This is basically the next phase that we have is the 2025 construction bid schedule. So this will be for the middle schools, the realignment in Lighthouse Elementary, the beginning of that becoming the early childhood center. So as of Friday, what we'll do is we've been through the design phase. So we have the final drawings are going to Barton Mallow so that they can send those out for bid. That'll go out in October. We'll get those bids will go out in a series. Then those are due at the end of October. And in November, we'll bring it to the board for approval. Then once we're done with that, then this is the rough kind of schedule for the elementary. We'll follow that pretty quickly with the elementaries. And so design stakeholder input will go from October through September of next year. So we'll have the year. They'll go out for bid in September. Again, we're looking at November approval. And then that will start in the spring of 2026. And then with construction commencing in March of 2026. And then ultimately that phase of it will be done August of 2027. So questions on any of this? Thank you. So another thing I wanted to highlight was the student performance and demographics. We received from the state, this is from the graduation rate, and pleased to say that this is, it lags a year. So this is not 2024, this is from 2023. And we hit an all-time high for our graduation rate. You can see at 95%. You can see the middle line is actually the state average, which has been hovering just slightly above 80%, and it's been flat. You can see the little dip there from COVID. And then the bottom line is for our just Macomb County. That's all Macomb County districts. You can see it really took a dive during COVID, and now they're just starting to come back up as well. The other interesting thing is MLive has been doing a series of research reports on like what does it take, what predicts student achievement, and then what are the results for districts. So this was last week's, so they talked about that there's really four demographic areas that really lead are leading indicators for districts, and those are median family income, percentage of adult residents with a bachelor's degree, and then what's your childhood poverty rate, and then the percentage of families that are headed by a married couple. So they kind of went through and they ranked every single district by that. And this will just set up when they talk about performance. So the median family income in Michigan, just so you have an idea, is about $87,000. The highest is in Bloomfield Hills, which wouldn't surprise anybody. That's $203,000. The lowest is in Covert, Michigan, on the west side of the state, and that's $34,000. For Anchor Bay, our median income is $111,000, and that puts us 58th in the state. Just so you know, there's about 540 traditional public schools, and then about another 340 charter schools, give or take. So about 880 districts that they could put on here. Percentage of adults with bachelor's degree, the average in the state is 31%. The highest is East Grand Rapids with 81%. The lowest is Flint Beecher with 4%. And Anchor Bay, we're slightly behind the state average at 29% with, which ranks us 147. The next is childhood poverty. The average for the state is 17%. The highest, meaning lowest poverty, is Frankenmuth. They only have 1% child poverty. And then Carrollton's on the opposite end. They have 67%. In Anchor Bay, it's 7%. That ranks us 136. Then the last one is households with two parents. The average is 69%. The highest is Byron at 85%. The lowest is Muskegon Heights at 15%. We're at 76%. So that's ranks us 143rd. So what's interesting is they follow this up with performance of districts in the top 50 like districts in each category. So for us, in every single category, we just missed being in the top 50 by like a fraction. In one instance, it was by 0.3 of a point. In the other, it was by like 1.5 points, which shows that we're kind of punching above our weight when it comes to demographics. So overall student proficiency, we were tops in Macomb County for the first time at 52.3%. And then the top 5 in Macomb County were Anchor Bay at 1, Armada, who we eked out at by 0.2 of a point, Romeo at 49.2, Utica at 45, and then Chippewa Valley at 41%. If you compare us to surrounding districts, which oftentimes will have similar demographics. So Richmond was 42.9, East China was 41.7, Algonac was 40.4, L'Anse Creuse was 37.1, and then New Haven was 35.8. So overall, based on our demographics, we have now kind of reached that level where we're above where the first report would kind of indicate, which is just testament to our staff, testament to teachers, testament to the students and our families in helping us lead the way on performance. And that is all for my report.
Anybody, any questions of superintendent?
I do have a question somewhat pertaining to the bond. I know there's some social media noise around school security. Can you maybe just talk about a little bit, get us up to speed, kind of where we were, where we are, and where we're going to be in the next couple of months around school security?
So school security, since we started the bond, we've added E911 capability, which is where you can, if somebody calls 911 from a class, they know exactly which classroom that it's been called to so that they can respond as such. We've done the critical incident mapping. We've done our external security review. We've added, I think, 330 or so cameras across the district. So we've totally upgraded that. In fact, right now, one of the things that you'll have on here is the flat panel monitors, which will allow our security office and everything to kind of monitor the cameras in a more active fashion. We've at the high school, which was the first phase. So we've added the security office. So when people come in, they go into the vestibule, then move the SRO office closer to the front. And then on top of that, we've added there's door access controls for everything. So now before I got here, we didn't have a good idea of who had keys, who didn't. So now we change all the exterior keys. Now everybody carries a badge and we can kind of track that and give access. And our partners in law enforcement have it as well, so they can get access to our building whenever they need. We also have the night lock system has been in any place that students are, had those installed as well. The new construction, when we add new construction, any of the entrances and all of that, we have new safety glass that's going in. So it's not bulletproof, it is bullet resistant is the technical term for that. So that's going in those places. As we go through each of the buildings, we will, depending on what area is being touched and what needs it, we will switch that out into those areas as well. We're working on an instant alert system. We are working on the radio system that will now cover the entire district because we didn't have that. Prior it had been just regular, like kind of off, you go to Target and you get the regular radios. Now we have a radio system that will be able to cover the entire district. And then we've been working on, obviously the Alice training has been in place and just adding those as well.
And how long has the Fortis group been with Anchor Bay?
This will be our third year.
Thank you.
Mr. Jankowski, how many guards do we have on now with Fortis across the district?
Right now, they're 14.
We have 14. And then we have our SRO law enforcement partner at the high school, full-time
Yeah, we have a full-time at the high school and full-time from Chesterfield.
from Chesterfield, and the New Baltimore officer is part-time in
Yeah,
Ackley,
New Baltimore.
Lighthouse, and
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the board may complete a brief request stating their name, address, and the subject of their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. Per board policy, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes at the podium. In addition, I want to make a quick comment statement, if you will, probably concerning the reason that most of you are here. Currently in the district, there is a Title IX investigation underway. I'm not going to get into the legalese of Title IX. I can just tell you that it was a federal law enacted in 1972 that prohibits discrimination in education at all levels from K through 12 through college. We have a student who has made an allegation against a staff member. We take these allegations very seriously. Our attorney recommended during this investigation that we put the staff member off on leave. And that's what we've done. The board cannot and will not comment on personnel matters or this investigation while it's ongoing. And the last thing I have is that I ask that you respect the privacy of both individuals and not mention their names here tonight, either by name, by school, by title. I think both of the parties that are involved in this investigation are entitled to some confidentiality. And I would really ask that if you do get up and speak, that you respect that. So with that being said, I have two people that wish to address the board tonight. The first is Ms. Shornack.
Oh, and the base, it's not on at all.
All right, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Rachel Shornack. I'm a parent of two Anchor Bay graduates, the former Anchor Bay Sports Boosters president, a fellow educator, and a wife of an Anchor Bay teacher. So I've spent a lot of time in and around Anchor Bay schools, and if you know me, you know that I have a heart for Anchor Bay and for this community. I love our students. I love our hardworking staff and coaches, but I don't love some of the recent decisions that have been made, including I'm especially disappointed in the very quick decision that was made last week to place a teacher on administrative leave for simply doing his job. I understand the details of why he was placed on leave cannot be discussed, but I think it's fair to speculate that it has something to do with him trying to uphold an attire requirement in his PE class. I'm speaking from a perspective of being an educator in that type of situation and wondering what was he supposed to do? How should he have handled it? What support did he have from his administration? And what are we missing? Because something doesn't seem to add up. What I really want to know is how do we get to a point at Anchor Bay High School where we are giving our teachers authority to make decisions that they deem is best for their students, but then not having a plan to support them in their decisions? That's essentially what has happened. He did his job and his administration failed him. I spent the last few days combing over the revised dress code that you, the school board, unanimously approved in February of this year. And let me be clear, I'm not here to bash the revised dress code. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is the lack of policy, guidelines, and support for teachers when they're in a situation when they need to enforce the dress code. That's what concerns me. So a few key points from the policy that I have questions about. First, it states specialized courses may require specialized attire such as sports uniforms or safety gear, for example, gym. Here's what this means to me, that the district, you have given our PE teachers permission to require specific clothing to be worn in their classes. You gave them the green light to make a classroom rule that students must wear a gray t-shirt and black shorts to class. It's a great policy. The kids do it. There's very few instances where they push back. And I know for a fact that he's upheld this rule for both male and female students, meaning he's asked male students wearing tank tops to change into a t-shirt. This isn't a rule for females only. It's universal. So we've given him the authority to create this rule, but the real question is what policies are in place to support our PE teacher when a student doesn't comply with it and it needs to be enforced, because that's what he did. He upheld his own attire policy and then the district put him on leave for upholding it. Something doesn't seem right. Second thing I want to point out to you on your revised dress code is number 4 of the guidelines. It states that guidelines shall prohibit student dress which prevents the student from achieving his or her educational objectives because of restricted movement, and that students' attire should facilitate participation in learning. I'll argue that an ill-fitting, low-cut shirt could cause a student to be restrictive in their movement during gym class and possibly impede on their participation. It might keep them from participating in activities like floor exercises, activities where they have to bend forward, or maybe an exercise like a bench press. They may not put forth their best effort out of fear of exposure, or they may decide not to participate at all. This particular teacher's attire requirement of a gray t-shirt and black shorts is to prevent this from happening. It's in their best interest that he enforces the attire requirement. It's not to harass them or to pick on them. It's to help create a positive learning environment for everyone. It's simple, safe, and straightforward. Again, we're punishing a teacher for upholding a guideline that is clearly outlined in the district dress code policy. The district wants kids to choose and wear clothing that will help them participate and learn. It's very simple. Coach G, this teacher wants the same thing. The last thing I want to comment on is the final statement of your policy. It says, any student with inappropriate clothing will remain in the office until an appropriate solution is found, which may require a change of clothing from home. I think this is great. It leads me to believe that there's support in the main office to help a teacher uphold their classroom requirements, except there isn't. There's no plan and no support. Students are sent right back to class because everyone is afraid of upholding the dress code policy. Ask your teachers. I did. It's a failure. And by the way, how is that student supposed to get from the gym to the office without the PE teacher having a conversation with them about their attire? Do teachers have the authority to speak with a student with that aren't adhering to the attire requirement? If they don't, then who does have the authority? Who's available to help them? What process has been determined by the building administrator for how a teacher is to communicate with a student about this topic so that they don't get in trouble? What's the plan for male teachers to do when the student in question is a female student? Ask any male teacher you know, and they will tell you they are scared to death of this happening to them. We are failing our teachers. There is no plan at the high school. Teachers feel helpless. Their livelihood, their reputation, their mental health is at stake, and you've put them in a very dangerous position to be in. I want to take this time really quickly to make a side note that there has not been a female administrator or PE teacher at the high school for many years, which means that there's no one to support male teachers and help them in a situation like this. My final remarks are not about the dress code specifically, but are regarding the manner in which this teacher was placed on leave. Your Title IX investigative flow chart posted on your website describes that the scope of the complaint could be 3 different options. I'm curious as to which one of the offenses he's being accused of. The options are quid pro quo, a hostile environment, and the third is sexual assault. There is no way that this teacher has committed the first or the third, so I'm assuming that it's a hostile environment. This holds no water, and this is why. As I mentioned earlier, your dress code policy states that PE teachers have permission to require specialized attire. You gave him the power to do so. He's allowed to have a gym class dress code. Please explain to me how asking a student to comply with his classroom guideline equals a hostile environment. It doesn't. He was doing his job, keeping his classroom a safe learning environment. If anything, it's the opposite of harassment. He protected that student and prevented a hostile environment for the student. The parent,
Ma'am, I would have to ask you to wrap up your comments. I've given you about 6 minutes.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. So in closing, the bottom line is that the apparent mishandling has had an effect on our community. We believe that this is a district issue, not an individual teacher issue. This needs to be worked out from the top level. Plans need to be put in place, support for your teachers so that they have a clear set of guidelines to follow when they have to handle a situation similar than this. They should feel comforted that their employer will have their backs and help them through this, not scared to death that they will lose their jobs. Please put this teacher back to work. He belongs in his classroom. He belongs back on the football field. As you can see, he is missed. He's needed, and this is a mistake that can be fixed. Whatever needs to be done to expedite it, we're asking that it be done. It's been 8 days, and he has yet to be given the opportunity to tell his side of the story. This community is standing behind this teacher. Thank you. I appreciate the extra time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Mr. Schroeder. And Mr. Schroeder, I'll extend you the same courtesy that I gave to the previous speaker. It was about 7 minutes, so if you could keep your comments inside that, that would be great.
Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you, Mr. Jankowski, for meeting with me the other day. Thank you for everyone that is here. This was not my idea to come here. I want you to understand that right off the bat. It was the community. The ability to make a difference is what Coach, Mr. Giannone, I'm speaking of, is why we came here. We have if you go in the football office right now, right over his desk is a statement, you don't know me unless you know my story. Our program has been built on that. I'm here to tell you, because he's not here, a little bit about Mr. Giannone. We came here, I talked him into coming here to Anchor Bay. I convinced him to go after this job. I said that this was an opportunity to develop a program that could make a meaningful difference. We have big plans, goals, and efforts to do that here. We kind of modeled our program and the picture off of Romeo. We said Romeo is a little town. We thought New Baltimore, Anchor Bay was that town that we could develop that. So we said we're going to go to the baseball games, we're going to the basketball games as coaches, and we're going to develop that pride in our school. That was our first thing. When we got here, there were 24 varsity players. I think there were 80 kids in the program. We have 170 or 175 in the program now. It's important that you understand Mr. Giannone. He is an extremely dedicated teacher. He is a master teacher. Teachers within our building have come to him and said, I need to deal with some issue in my classroom. What can you tell me? He is as good as it can. He's as tough as it can get. You can ask any of these guys that we toe the line. Uniforms, attendance, accountability. It's what we have been. I'm a Catholic, grew up as a Catholic. Mr. Giannone is the best Catholic coach I have ever been around. He lives his faith, his family. In fact, that was our motto forever and ever, faith and family. On my wrist, I wear kind of what our program was dedicated to this year, and it's discipline, trust, and commitment. That is the basis of this year's program. He's extremely structured coach. We didn't want to just build a team. We wanted to build a program. We wanted to build a program with a community. Right now, he's having trouble eating and sleeping. I can't speak for him, but I can't imagine how he's feeling. Mrs. Shornack related one little thing, and I got the Title IX flow chart. I'm not concerned about the case. Ms. Shornack addressed a little bit of it. I don't know. I don't want to know who the student is. I don't want to know who reported. I don't want to know who anybody is involved in this at all. That is not my concern. My concern is the welfare of 170 young men in a team event that it has a considerable amount of safety factors to it. So the code says that you may put them on. So what I hear when I hear attorneys, I hear a district that decided to lawyer up. And I've had some experience with this where people said, let's lawyer up. And what basically it means is we can get more money the more problems we have. In that last case, we had multiple lawsuits. It was a private school, but it probably cost them $1 million in lawsuits because of the situation. The teacher involved here is obviously very, very extremely visible. So it's in our Title IX flow chart. And the second thing in the flow chart, it says that the option for an informal resolution. So in our flow chart, there is no timeline on our flow chart. Ms. Shornack addressed that a little bit. It should have been taken care of to me a long time ago. One of the things that I move around the building, Ms. Shornack mentioned a couple of them. There is no woman administrator. Hasn't been one there since I got there 5 years ago. There is no woman phys ed teacher. There is no woman security guard. When I talk to male faculty in that building, they go, I ain't saying nothing. I ain't doing nothing. I don't care what the situation is. I think in a community, we will have some standards. We want our teachers to be able to address those standards. I have even been, I wouldn't say threatened. I've been, people have mentioned my name as possible reprisal. So we have a situation where we're considering a harassment or whatever it is, and I have, you know, my problems. My solution, and which we're about in education, is solutions. And I come to you, board, as I want the solution. And the solution is real easy to me, is you do not have to bring Mr. Giannoli back as a teacher. You just have to stop the administrative leave. Bring him back, let him coach, address the situation however it has to be. It is very simple. And then we'll go from there. When I talked to Mr. Jankowski, when I talked to the players, the lesson that I said is I will do what I have to do. If I was your friend, Mr. Jankowski, I would do it for you. I would do it for any player that ever played for me. I will do whatever I have to do to clear my friend's name. And when I look on public Facebook and other things, and they say, get rid of him, he's a bad apple. Look what happened at another school. I know what happened at another school, and I can explain every detail of that more closely than anyone else, including our beloved head coach. Why is he beloved? Because he holds these guys to standards. He holds his students to standards, and this community will not accept a teacher who holds people to standards being raked over the coals. I think I'm pretty well done. I want to make you know, a couple more things, particularly for our seniors here. Our seniors, we're 4 games into our season. You only get one senior year in high school. That's it. That's it. They deserve their head coach. He is our leader. I can only do so much. He's one hell of a coach. And I need him. They need him. We need to solve this problem immediately. There is no timeline on this. It could have been done now. Bring in the complainant, bring in the respondent, bring in the investigator, and get it done. Could have been done within an hour, in my opinion. I want to give you one more point. You know me a little bit. I started out coaching and teaching at Wayne State University in 1966. I've been coaching 58 years. My background is special education. I started with my partners, Special Olympics in Macomb County with 35 kids in 1974, 50 years ago, with 35 kids, 2 counties, Macomb and St. Clair counties. I am dedicated to special education students. I really have given my life. I was the Wayne State Roadrunners wheelchair team with Vietnam vets. By the way, we have 2 war heroes on our staff. Mr. Politowicz and Coach Marcone are both war heroes, literally war heroes, wounded in combat. I like people to know our story. I want to know your story. When I see you in the hall, I would like to be able to talk to you. So yes, I'm impassioned. I've been in a couple of situations. I was a union president, by the way, also.
Mr. Schroeder, I'm going to ask you to try to wrap up
so-
your comment
so-
here in the next minute or so, please.
I certainly will. I appreciate being here. The kids know my favorite saying, what is it? You gotta love it. You gotta love it when it's hard, you gotta love it when it's easy, you gotta love it. And the love that we have to have for our head coach and for this community and what we tried to do when we came here has to be shown. We need to get this resolved. We're educators, we need resolution. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on with our agenda. Item F is communications.
And no communication.
All right, we're going to move on to item G, our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are of a recurring nature and are voted on as a single item. Any board member may request an item be removed without a vote of the board, and it will be discussed individually. The recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, minutes, and personnel report. I will entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll
second.
Motion by Mr. Moses, supported by Mr. Vendatelli. Any comments, questions, or concern from the board? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Drew. Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes. Ms. Knox
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
Yes. Move on to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. First is a policy first reading. The first policy that has been shared with you is concerning the Board of Education and reviewing and updating the policy for board compensation. The change and the addition that's been provided to you is in blue down below. At the end of the policy, it now will read, if this is approved, to qualify for compensation, board members must attend a minimum of 75% of the scheduled meetings they are expected to participate in. This is a policy first reading, so there is no motion. It will likely be on the agenda for next month. So certainly if there is any discussion, we can have it at that time. Are you okay with that?
What's the current salary?
I think it's $45 a meeting. Is that what we decided it was?
Yeah, it's 40.
I think it's 45.
Oh,
I
45.
think it's 45. There's no increase. That's not what was proposed. It was proposed to maintain the same amount. Just adding in the extra language after, I think policy and finance discussed both of that. All right, on to the next agenda item is our reserved fund balance. At the end of July, the district received $2,796,895 for the sale of Sugar Bush Elementary. Before you tonight is a resolution to designate the same amount of $2,796,895 in the general fund balance as committed towards future capital projects. Once the committed fund balance constraints are imposed, it requires the constraint to be revised, removed, or redirected for other purposes by the board in the same manner as the board originally approved the commitment. Mr. Jankowski, do we need to read this into the record? Very well. Resolution authorizing the Anchor Bay School District designating certain general funds as committed fund balance. A regular meeting of the Board of Education was held at McDonald Elementary on September 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The meeting was called to order by myself, Patrick Green, the president, with all members of the board present at the meeting. I will entertain a motion to continue on, to read, what we're going to put into the record. So I'll entertain a motion to, approve that 2.796895 to be designated into a special fund for, as discussed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli, so I will continue to read the resolution. The following preamble and resolution were offered by Member Knox and supported by Member Vinatelli. Whereas the school district sold Sugar Bush Elementary to Chesterfield Township on July 31st, 2024, and netted proceeds of $2,796,895. And whereas the Governmental Standards Accounting Board, GASB, has issued statement number 54, establishing a hierarchy clarifying constraints that govern how a city entity can use amounts reported as fund balance. And whereas the Anchor Bay School District Board of Education has the authority to commit, assign, or evaluate existing fund balance classifications and identify the intended uses of committed or assigned funds. And whereas the committed fund balance classification reflects amounts subject to specific internal constraints self-imposed by the board. And whereas once the committed fund balance constraints are imposed, it requires the constraint to be revised, removed, or redirected for other purposes by the board in the same manner as the board originally approved the commitment. And whereas the board has determined it has future capital expenditure needs that it elects to fund with portions of its general fund ending fund balance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Anchor Bay School District Board of Education hereby commits $2,796,895 of its general fund statement ending balance as indicated by the committed fund classification in its financial statements for future capital expenditures. I have a motion on the floor to that effect by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Any comments, questions, concerns, further discussion?
Couple questions. What is, where's this money gonna sit? I'm assuming an interest-bearing account.
Yeah, basically, we would put it into an investment.
Yeah. Is there any appetite to maybe discuss using the interest off of this money as maybe earmarked towards something else, towards school improvement or teacher, just because, you know, inflation's only, what, 2%? If that thing grows more than that, I think we could utilize that interest in better ways to improve things around the district. Just a thought, and I meant to bring it up
Yeah,
before, but I'd never really.
This will now be included on financial reports every year, so that's obviously something the board can do as
Okay.
it goes forward. I know the discussion was in finance that we have things like that parcel that we purchased in order to build houses on. This would be used to fund that. It'd also be fund to purchase additional property for other like student activities. Yes.
So to Mr. Moses' point, where does the interest go? Does it automatically stay in
It
with
would
that
stay in
account, or
that-
does it come
in
back
that-
to our general fund?
It would stay in that fund.
So would it require an act by the board to move that interest out of there, to Mr. Moses' point, that we could put in
Yes,
the
you would-
general
you
fund
need an
or
act
earmark it
to, yeah,
at that point for something?
everything that's in there, like it says, you would then have to have an act to allocate it to whatever.
Any other questions, or is your thought complete, Mike?
That was it.
Would
Okay.
that, supposedly that would be a resolution, what, would that be a initial resolution, any interest from this point forward, or would we have to every so often take that pool of interest money and then at that time that it's accumulated, then make a resolution to, put that for something else?
No, right now it would stay in that account, but you can change that and redirect it wherever. Basically, the concept, and this is why they recommend it, is when you do a one-time purchase of something, that is a one-time purchase.
Mhm.
And they really kind of, our auditors and everybody kind of frowns upon using one-time income for ongoing costs. So if you are taking it for something, then you use it for things that like, that would be like if you're building those houses for those classes or you're purchasing land. Now it's one-time cost into one-time revenue into one-time cost. And it just frees you up in order to make that allocation and the kind of, hey, we're going to keep track of it as a separate like line item.
I guess my only thought is that interest makes more interest. So if I was, hoping to build that up to do, when you're talking about $3 million, interest payments to Mr. Moses' point could be used in district, but I could peel that money out of there and that could be how we fund that first basement that we have to pay for, whatever it is on that. We obviously have to some engine, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to go into building those houses. So I would support, at some point taking the interest out of there and hoping that it's garnering more interest than maybe our general money is. But I'm not sure I would be interested in modifying the motion to direct anything at this point. At least that's my 2 cents. But it also, beyond all of us, needs to stay on the finance committee's brain when we see that money sitting there, that it was 2.796 and it's now over 3 million because we've done some interest. What can we do good with that interest? For sure. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so hearing none, I have a motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli, on the floor. And therefore I will, since it is $3 million of spending or savings in this case, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli,
Yes.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Mr. Drew. Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, and Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving down the agenda, item 3 under new business is an award recommendation. Before the board this evening is an award recommendation to add display monitors to the newly constructed pathway and security offices at the high school. The district solicited 3 separate bids on a per unit basis, which are included. VSC, this contractor was the middle bid. This bid was all encompassing and complete with our perspective. This contractor installs flat panel monitors in large quantities regularly and is accustomed to the expectations of this type of work. VSC is based locally in Novi. Thank you for that. They are already doing work for us in the district and have done a very nice job. Our recommendation is to move forward with VSC for this project at a total cost of $50,170. The other 2 bids have been provided to you. Bridges AV was the high bidder. These folks are also familiar with this type of work, and we have a high level of confidence that they would get the job done in a professional manner. However, given that they're the highest bid and they are based on the west side of the state, we are not recommending that the award be given to Bridges AV. And I want to make sure I say, is it CHI? CHI? CHI is another contractor, a technical lowest bidder. They offered 3 different monitor options. We used the pricing for the LG option, which puts them on an even playing field with the other contractors. That said, their bid appears to include all items required. However, this particular job is a bit out of their wheelhouse in comparison to what they usually do. CHI is also based locally in Rochester Hills. These proposals were reviewed by Tim Sizemore, and he is in agreement with the appropriate choice would be to award this work to VSC. So the recommended action, I'll get my sentences straight, is that the Board of Education approve the recommendation to move forward with VSC for this project at a total cost of $50,170. I will entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Minatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Further discussion?
Just a question about CHI. Get that right?
Yes.
So the concern is they're not able to get the job done right. What was the, I guess, thought process for their capabilities being sufficient for this job?
Tim, would you care to answer that question, please?
Hey, Tim, can you make sure the microphone's on and so we capture it?
So CI is more of a computer company more than a audio visual company. VSC, that's all they do. They don't do PC server work or networking. They do strictly, audio video work. So, I mean, we use CI in the past. We've used them for everything else. That's not their forte to work on, that kind of stuff.
Anyone else? My question would be more directed towards our safety and security director, Ms. DePape. Was she involved in selecting the type of equipment, where this equipment's going to go, if it's the right size? At
Yeah.
our security
Yeah,
specialist.
we were all in there at the same time when we put everything together. Yes, we all
Great.
met all at the same time.
Thanks, Tim.
Where are these screens going? Where are the screens gonna go?
Sorry.
Where are we gonna put them? Where are they going?
So the monitors are going in the security entrance and the entrance of the high school. And then the other ones will go into the offices of kind of the pathways.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, since it's about $50,000 in spending, Mr. Secretary, if you would.
Motion by Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
supported by Ms. Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Mr. Drew. Ms. Burkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, and Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3. Other points of pride. We will start with our secretary.
Why, thank you, Mr. Green. I don't really have my prepared notes tonight, but thank you. I want to apologize for missing the last school board meeting. I had perfect attendance up to then, by the way. I want to for 4 years. I would like to thank and welcome all the new teachers, welcome the staff to Anchor Bay. I'm very excited for this year. We have a lot of changes. It's great to hear the feedback of the new school, or I should say new school, the new additions to the school. One of my employees actually did some work into the new culinary arts building, and he was actually jealous because he lives in another school district. So it's kind of funny that he can see, what we're doing. It's good to hear what Anchor Bay is doing and moving in the right direction. It was a great presentation tonight to Mr. Jankowski. I want to thank you. It's great to see where we are and where we stand with Macomb County. My points of pride would be actually for Barton Malow getting the school ready and prepared for school on time. It was great to see what they've done, throughout the summer. And once again, I'm just very excited for the school year. I'm looking forward to what comes. Thank you.
Ms. Burkmeyer?
I have no pride today.
Mr. Drew?
My winter pride is I'm not taking aside what happened. I don't know what happened. There's an investigation going, but I guess I really enjoy to see young men like that, young women coming out here and supporting something they believe in and stepping up and backing their coach. Again, this isn't a hit on the young lady or anything. Just, I think that's a good thing to show. I mean, parents show up and stuff, but to have the students out here, that was just, to me, that's why I applaud to them. I think that was a good thing to see. Youth getting involved in what they believe in, because you don't see a lot of that these days. So it was cool for me to see. So that was my point of pride tonight.
Mr. Vendatelli?
Yeah, I'd like to echo a lot of Mr. DeRue's remarks too. Obviously, it's an ongoing investigation. We're not going to comment on it. But I appreciated how those who wanted to express their views did so in a very polite manner, very professional manner. The people who came were respectful and they showed solidarity with one another. And I think that's a good thing. So that's all.
Ms. Knox? I don't want you to get too comfortable, Mike.
I'm gonna echo the comments of Mr. Drew and Mr. Vendatelli. I was also, again, we can't discuss it. not taking a side, just simply commenting on how respectful our students were who came out today and how well-spoken the speakers were. And it's nice to see when anytime a community comes together. That's it.
Mr. Moses.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with what all three of you said, and a lot of those individuals I know personally out there through coaching over the years. I bet you if I haven't coached one of them, I coached against them. And it's just good to see, like you said, young men and women coming out, you know, and showing their support and doing things the right way. So I really appreciate that.
I would agree with, all of your comments tonight. Often we sit in the boardroom and it's, 7 of us plus a couple of administrators. So to have, probably, would you guess, 150 people in here tonight, 175. I actually enjoy that. I agree that it's great to see that our young folks see something, they want to get involved and they're coming out. And that's important to me as well, especially when one of our traits is trying to raise and teach these young men and women how they're going to conduct themselves when they get out of high school. That's one of our goals. It's one of our jobs. And to see them all come in, be quiet when it was time to be quiet and be respectful I was impressed with that. So
150 kids leaving quietly.
yeah, it was, we gave them a second to get out, but to move 150, 175 people through a narrow door was a bit of a challenge. And I guess my other point of pride would be the high school is looking great. I've toured a couple of high school districts over the past month or so. And I always come back to how well kept and how beautiful our buildings are. I know some of them are old and some of them are in need of repairs, roofs, parking lots. But I can assure you, some of the school districts that I've seen in the past 30 days don't come close to as nice and as well orchestrated as we do here at Anchor Bay. So not only is that a compliment from Mr. Jankowski and our administrators and our teachers, but it's also this board. I'd like to think we have some say over what happens in our schools, although ultimately Mr. Jankowski makes all those decisions as technically he's our only employee. But I know there's guidance and conversations that you guys are having out in, let's call it the field with, when you run into a principal and you're talking about something that concerns you or something that's positive, and conversations that you're having with our directors, because you see them at a conference, you see them at a meeting, you see them in the school pickup line. And I appreciate that this is going to sound bad, but that you allow that to happen, that your administrators aren't afraid to talk to us. They're open, they're honest, they're direct. Sometimes a little scary, the stuff they tell us, because we're quite ready for it. But as opposed to them being sheltered and not really being permitted to have access to us, I appreciate the relationship that you really allow the board to have with everybody that works for you. So with that said, legislative update.
2 things on the legislative update. Last week, the Senate passed Senate Bill 911 again. This now kind of really codifies the healthcare. A couple months ago, we talked about the healthcare contribution. So if that now it has to go back to the House, they're supposed to pass it sometime today. It's the only time the House is in session. And if they do that, then it will go to the governor. And if it's passed, then that contribution, the 3% contribution, all of the employees make for the healthcare costs that are now caught up on the state side, they wouldn't have to do that. And the other part of it would be the district would not have, it would shave 5.75 points off of our contribution to that same fund. Today, the House, this is hot off the press, they are moving a supplemental budget through, and this will restore. Right now, as it came out of committee, I didn't see if it made it through the actual House yet. It'll put 126 million back towards the mental health and the security. 1 million is to kind of bolster the reporting system, okay, to say things like that. And 125 million would go to districts. It's not entirely, it was 300, I think it was 330 million was in the original budget. They reduced that to 25 million. This would restore 125 million, make it about 150 million back there. So just slightly less than half. And that's it for the update.
Is that a per pupil allowance? Is that how it would be paid out, or are they looking? How is it gonna be disseminated?
Normally it is you will get a per pupil.
Okay,
I haven't seen the actual thing, but that's what I would imagine it's going to be. And then they did make a point of it saying it's just a 1 year. This is a 1 year allocation, so
of course it is.
not to look at it in the next budget potentially. So we'll see.
All right, appreciate that. Board committee updates.
But we
I don't think anybody's met really since the last meeting. All right, item 4 is a closed a session. The recommended action is the Board of Education approve to move to close session pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Section 8B for student discipline, and to consider the attorney-client privilege communication under Section 81H of the Open Meetings Act. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Moses. Roll call, sir.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
supported by Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Drew.
Yeah.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, and Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. We will move into closed session at 8:01 PM. All right, let's go back into open session. I have exactly 10 PM and it is still Wednesday, September 25th. Is there any board member that is inclined to make a motion?
I am.
Oh, I do have to vote to resume. I was just such a big hurry. I will entertain a motion to come back into open session.
I'll make a motion. to go
I'll
back into
second.
session.
Motion by Moses, followed by Vendatelli. Roll call, sir. Pastor.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Drew.
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, Ms. Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. Back to my original question. Is there any board member who is so inclined to make a motion at this time?
I would like to make a motion to pertaining to student 014357. Motion to permanently expel with the option to apply for reinstatement after 90 days with the following conditions. Two-way communication with their therapist. They would attend online classes and Anchor Bay would provide the necessary technology for their success in that. They would meet monthly with Mr. Latona and they would attend summer school.
Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All right, so motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Moses. Comments, questions, discussion, anybody? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary?
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Drew,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. Is there any inclination of this board to make another motion?
Why, yes, I would.
Ms. Berkmeyer?
So for clarity, this is a denial, but whereas on August 30th, 2024, Tammy Rose sent the district a request under the Michigan Freedom of Information Act, MCL 15.231, seeking, quote, a digital copy of the report prepared by Troon Law Firm regarding issues in the Anchor Bay High School boys basketball program, end quote. On September 3rd, 2024, the district denied the FOIA request. On September 18th, 2024, the requester appealed the denial. The board effectively received the appeal at tonight's meeting and now has 10 business days to make a decision whether to reverse the disclosure denial, uphold the disclosure denial, or reverse in part and deny in part. The board has carefully considered the requester's appeal. Now therefore be it resolved that Ms. Rose FOIA appeal is denied and the disclosure denial is upheld.
The board directs its board president to work with the superintendent and legal counsel to provide a written decision consistent with this resolution and to take appropriate measures to ensure that the FOIA appeal response complies with Michigan law. All resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
All right, I've got a motion by Ms. Berkmeyer. Is there a support?
I'll support.
All right, I've got a motion by Ms. Berkmeyer and a support by Mr. Vendatelli. So I will add to the part of the resolution that Ms. Berkmeyer read. As part of that resolution, the Anchor Bay School District, Macomb and St. Clair Counties, Michigan, a regular meeting of the Board of Education, the Board of Education, also known as the Board of the Anchor Bay School District, known as the district, was held at McDonald Elementary located at 5201 County Line Road on September 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The meeting was called to order by Patrick Green. All members were present, including Trustee Berkmeyer, Trustee DeRue, Trustee Vendatelli, Trustee Moses, Trustee Knox, and Trustee Richards, as well as Trustee Green. I think that's all I need to add to that. So I've got a motion on the floor and a support. Any discussion? Mr. DeRue.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not in favor of this motion. I understand where it comes from, but I'm just not in favor of it as a person who has FOIA'd stuff many, many times in my professional career. And I'm always, every public body I've sit on for complete transparency. I think it looks bad when you're a public body and you deny a FOIA. Sometimes you have to, but I think in this case with names being redacted, I don't think it'd be a problem to release this, especially with everything in the media and everything going on. If there's nothing in there, we should be okay with releasing it. And that's why my vote tonight will be no on this motion. And it's just something I only got, like I said to you guys, a couple more months on this board, but I'm going to finish the way I started. Ran on transparency, and I think we need to be transparent. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments? All right, just to be clear, a no vote is a denial, correct? A yes vote is a denial. A yes vote denies the request. If there are nothing further, one last call. Would you call the roll, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Green. Motion by Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
supported by Mr. Vinatieri.
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
No.
Mr. Richards is a yes, Ms. Knox,
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
No. Motion carries. I believe that is all the business we have to transact tonight, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Knox, supported by Moses. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Meeting ends at 10:07 PM.